What we're going to work on today is we're going to talk about selecting employees. So now that we've talked about leadership and management and what the supervisor has to do to be a good supervisor, probably one of their biggest jobs is to make sure that we're hiring people and we're making the right selection. So there's actually a method to selecting employees. A lot of businesses just don't go out and just hire anybody. Okay, there's a lot of research that goes into who you need on your team. So if you're a good supervisor, you're going to look at different types of tools to find the right people for the jobs that you have available. One of the tools that everybody uses right now is LinkedIn. So if you don't know what LinkedIn is, you can go ahead and you can do a search. And basically it's a platform for people to put all of their data, everything they're proud of can go on LinkedIn. So if you are actively looking for a job, you need to have a profile on LinkedIn, even if it's a very basic profile. It's your resume online. Okay, so your LinkedIn profile is going to have your education, where you went to school. It's going to have anything you're proud of. Did you have any awards? Have you given any awards? It's also going to have your skills. So you're able to actually put in information on your skills. And that's what employers are looking for. So they're going to LinkedIn. They're going to there's some other job search type programs too, but right now the biggest one is LinkedIn. And they go there and they type in keywords of who they're looking for, skills, education, and it'll bring back to them a report of people who are actively looking for work. So if you are looking for any type of job, because I've been told that all employers will look at LinkedIn when you apply for the job. So before they interview you, they're also going to go to Facebook. So if you use Facebook, make sure your Facebook page is friendly to employers, okay? Be careful what you put out there, okay? If you have any kind of profanity or pictures that maybe aren't appropriate, maybe you take those down while you're looking for a job, because they do go to Facebook as well. Is it legal? Probably not. Okay, should a business not hire someone because they see something on Facebook that they don't like? That's probably illegal. It probably is. But does it happen? Yes, it does. If I'm hiring somebody and I go to your social media and you're not who I'm looking for, that could keep you from getting the job. Now, can also work the other way too. If I'm hiring someone and I need someone creative and fun with lots of energy, then I'm going to see the Facebook pages that have the artwork and the creativity and people having fun. That could get you a job. Just be real careful what you post on your Instagram too. Instagram, some companies are doing Instagram. So be careful what you put out there. Make sure whatever you put out there, you're proud of, okay? Remember, everything on the internet that you put out there is always there. So be real careful, because years from now, you might be getting a job or looking for a job and they might see something that could hurt you years down the line. So anything you put on social media, be proud of it. Okay, celebrate social media. Don't use it as a tool that could hurt you in the future. Okay, and a lot of teenagers, we struggle with this. My son is going to be coming into middle school, and already he's interested in social media, and I've already had to have that talk with him. Whatever you put out there stays out there forever. So employers are looking at LinkedIn. They're looking at social media, and they want to get to know you. So not only do they want to know your skills, but they also want to get to know you. So let's talk about how they select. Let's talk about some of the tools they use. Okay, so not just LinkedIn, but here's the procedure. So this is a lot to take a look at. So let's just briefly go over this chart. Basically, requisition of an employee, that would be going out, doing some research to find out what type of people are out there looking for work and what are they looking for. Okay, and that's where an employer is going to use a job search program, and they're going to put in the keywords and the things that they need, that they're looking for. And they could be very, very specific. And then they're going to do a preliminary screening. So maybe they go out and they get a bunch of names of people that might be good for the job. And then they're going to narrow that down even more. And they might even narrow that down to maybe 10 or 15 people. And then in the preliminary screening, they might actually send some emails, set up a Zoom call. Most interviews right now are done on Zoom, are done on Skype or Zoom. Okay, that's become a common thing now. 8 years ago, when I applied for this full-time job, I literally lived 1 mile away from the college, okay? But all of the interviews were done on a camera, on the Zoom call, because we had people from out of town that were applying. So basically, to make it fair, every single initial interview was done via Zoom, was done via video camera, okay? So that's become a commonplace now. So if they like you and they've looked over groups of resumes and they want to do some preliminary screening prior to the interview, they may have a phone call with you, or maybe a Zoom call, or it could just maybe even be an email. So you get to application and the resume come in, and resumes are very important. If you do not have a resume, you should start your resume. And right now it can be just one page. Keep your resume to just one page, and that would be all of the things that you're proud of that will help you get a job. Your education, your hobbies, your jobs, all of that should be on there. Everything that you can think of that you're doing right now. Now, there's also something called a curriculum vitae, that's a CV, and that's a little bit longer. That would be pages and pages. Once you have a career and you've done a lot, you can put that in your CV, and that could be multiple pages. But right now, employers just want a resume. So if you're just applying for a regular job, they just want to see that one page, and it's the highlights of everything you do, everything you're doing now and everything you've done. You put it into one page, and that way they know immediately what your skills are and what you're proud of too. So it's a way to showcase yourself, okay? And then if they like your resume, let's say they've looked at your resume, now they're narrowing it down to 10 people, and then they can actually do pre-employment tests, okay? And a lot of people don't like to do pre-employment tests, but if it's a job that really requires a very specific technical skill set, these are definitely required, because they need to be able to weed out people who maybe don't have those particular skills. Is it discrimination? Maybe some people will feel like it's discrimination, but really pre-employment tests could be something as simple as, let's say you are a technician. Well, we need to make sure what level of technician you are. Okay, let's say you are a software engineer, that's great, but what is your skill? What is your level? So sometimes these pre-employment tests are really just for the benefit of seeing where you stack up, okay? And then there could be a pre-employment interview. All right, we'll have the interview. Now, when you get to the interview, they have already gone through 4 other steps. So they know who you are a little bit already. So when you go into your interview, you don't have to restate your education. You don't have to restate the things that you've already shared on your resume. You can be a little bit more open. The interview now is an opportunity for the employers to get to know you a little bit better. So you really need to be prepared. And I'm going to show you a couple of videos and things where you can go to get some information on how to be prepared. Because remember, they've already looked at your resume. They've already kind of decided from a large group of people, they've already narrowed it down to say 10 people. So they kind of already know a little bit about your background. They know what you do. They know what you're capable of. Now the interview, think of it as a first date, okay? You go out on a date, or you go out with a friend for the first time. What do you talk about at that point, okay? You get the things out, but this is not the first date. This is kind of like the second date. We already know a little bit about you. Now we kind of want to know more about how you would fit in our organization. And there's all kinds of videos out there that show you how to dress for an interview, because you always should look very business professional. Okay, you may not have to wear a suit all the time. Men should always wear a tie. That's just natural. Now, if the job is a very fun job, let's say it's a restaurant job or an artist type job, maybe you can get away without a tie, but always dress nicer than you know, And then the employer can always tell you, hey, we're a very casual organization. We allow jeans and t-shirts, but let them tell you that. So always come to an interview professional looking. Women should wear maybe a jacket. If it's a business office, men should have the tie. Okay, make sure your hair is combed, and that you just look presentable. Okay, dress up nice. You don't have to wear the three-piece suit and all that stuff. I think in Florida, we don't even, we don't even go that far. Now, with the Zoom call, just like a lot of people on the news right now were talking about, you only even have to look nice from the waist up. Okay, so we've already gone over kind of what the process is for selecting employees. And then that, of course, culminates into the interview. And then we might go out, get references, and then we can make the job offer. But some of the things that might happen before the job offer, and maybe even before the interview, would be a subject of tests, pre-employment type tests. And these are going to be things like personality tests. We've all done these before. The Myers-Briggs you may have done in school. You may do it here in your college classes. Myers-Briggs, there's a DISC profile, DISC, and these really just give you an idea of what your style of what you are looking for, what types of personality you have. Are you a dominant personality? Are you more of an introvert? Are you an extrovert? And this just helps managers and supervisors get an idea of how you'll work well with others. And basically they're just assessments. We'll take a survey. It'll give us a bunch of questions about ourselves, and if we answer them very honestly, this really can help your employer kind of get an idea of a little bit about who you are before they get to work with you. They're not perfect. Sometimes they're a little off, and sometimes they're a little intimidating, but at least it gives the supervisors an idea of, my team needs some more dominant people, or my team needs some more intuitive and thinking and feeling type people on the team. And it just gives us a baseline for how we can maybe approach you, talk to you, and then even know what better questions to ask you. Achievement or proficiency tests, if the job is very specific and you have to know what you're going to be doing on a daily basis, and we need to make sure that you do understand those skills, you may be asked to take a proficiency test. If you're going to be a chef, or you're going to be a doctor, or you're going to be somebody in that type of instance where we really need to test your proficiency, we are going to give you those types of tests. And then you have work sampling or work preview. We can actually find out what you can come in and shadow in our organization, but before we even make that job offer, we can have you come in and maybe show us what you got, show us your best stuff. Maybe it's a job shadowing. You come in for a couple hours and you walk and you watch somebody else do the job. Or maybe we actually put you out on the floor. If you're in the hospitality business, maybe we have you work a shift and we watch that, and we can get an idea of how you'll work great with our team. Okay, so these are just a couple of pre-employment type tests. Then the next thing, of course, would be checking references. So once we've picked you out of a group of resumes, we had an initial phone conversation or a Zoom call, we brought you in to do the interview, we did some pre-assessment screening, and we know you're what we want. The next thing is going to be reference check. And this is really just to get a background information. It could be, we want to know if you've got a criminal background, or we want to know what your credit scores look like. There are a lot of jobs that will not allow you to work in the organization if you have a low credit score, and it could be working in a bank. I know that if you're in the military, in order to receive clearance, you've got to have perfect credit. So there are different types of jobs that have different recommendations, and there are some jobs that will allow you to maybe have a misdemeanor on your record, and then there are some jobs that will not allow you to have a criminal record at all. And again, that could be jobs where you're handling money, or where you're doing something that really is a public safety type thing. They are not going to hire somebody that has a felony charge or something like that. So we'll see what happens with that, but references are very important, and make sure that you're including the people on your reference sheet who can really give you a good recommendation. Okay, the reference sheet is not to put your friends and family, it's to put the people you've worked with, or maybe someone who was on a project with you. It could be, if you're a volunteer for an organization, it could be somebody you worked with on that project. It could be a professor. It could be a teacher. It could be somebody that was on a team with you. Use those people as your references, okay? Let's talk a little bit about orientation. Really good organizations have good orientation programs, and these are designed to get you feeling good about the new job that you've taken. Okay, I've been hired. Now I'm going to go through orientation, and this is an opportunity for the business to show you how things are done. These days, there's not nearly as much training and development as there used to be, but we can still have a little bit of an orientation. And in some instances, it may be very quick. It may be a one-day training course. It may be a 5-minute orientation. Hi, here's the team. Okay, get to work. Okay, but some organizations do have extensive orientation programs where you need to go and you might have to take a course, you may have to watch some videos, you may have to interact with team members, and there could be very specific training. Some of the jobs that require a very sophisticated skill set might put you through months of training. Some, you're just going to get back up and you're going to get started. In the hospitality industry, if you're a server or you're a hostess, you might get a little bit of training on how they do everything, but really they're going to put you out and expect you that you already know how to work with customers and how to get things done. Okay, so the orientation and training is just dependent upon the organization, how much time they want to spend training you, and what type of job you're going to be doing. Okay, so training then, yeah, again, like I said, a lot of companies don't spend nearly as much time or money on training anymore because it's very expensive and time consuming. So if I can get you out and get you trained quickly, I'm going to put you through maybe a couple hours or a day and get you back out to what you need to do. That would be for less sophisticated jobs, jobs that require a higher level of technical skills. You may get a couple of months training. You may get even more than that. You might even get a year's training. Okay, the performance appraisal. Let's quickly go over a performance appraisal. This is an opportunity for you to be reviewed. Okay, we've all gone through some kind of review, whether our bosses have given us a review, we get grades in our courses, we're always being reviewed and appraised. And this is the opportunity. A performance appraisal should be positive. It should always have some kind of recommendation for what you can be doing better or differently. Okay, so it's not just an opportunity to tell people what they're doing wrong. It should be an opportunity to let people know how they're progressing and what they can do differently to grow with the organization. They should be positive, not full of positive information, because there are some things we do need to hear that we do need to work on, but it should be a positive approach in the way it's presented to you, in the way that you are giving your feedback, and then in the way that you're giving a recommendation, plan, or a discipline plan to move forward. Okay, it's very important. There are a lot of organizations that have to have performance appraisals to meet specific legal guidelines. Okay, and a lot of organizations that have performance appraisals in order to be able to give you a raise or a promotion. Okay, so how they operate, we're going to look at your personal qualities, everything from your aptitude, your ability to perform the job, to your attitude. What is an attitude? How do we measure attitude? We'll talk about that in a few minutes, okay? All the way through your job behavior. What are you doing? What's your function in the organization? What kind of tasks do you complete? How do you complete the tasks? Okay, this is more of the functional part of your job. And then what kind of performance? What kind of productivity? What kind of achievements? What are you helping the organization? How are you helping them grow? And then, of course, then the manager will come in and they'll evaluate each specific item that they feel is most important. And then, of course, can lead to a pay increase, maybe a bonus, a promotion, and it could also lead to a layoff or a discharge or being fired. So those are the negative aspects, but everything has to revolve around the fact that we need to know how we're doing. We need to know how we're performing. And it's only going to help us if we can talk with our supervisor. The supervisor should lay out a very clear plan as to how they're going to appraise you. What are you looking for? Okay? What are you looking for? Some of the things that you can do as a supervisor is make sure that you're prepared, okay? Prepare yourself. If you've given the appraisal, if you and your employee have already kind of filled out the paperwork, has been filled out, and now you're going to go ahead and sit down and talk about the results of the appraisal, be sure that you're prepared. Be sure that you can focus on performance and then development to increase or help that in performance, okay? Be specific. Be specific about the behavior that you want from your employees, okay? And then focus on future performance. All appraisals should end with a very positive, optimistic approach. Sometimes you'll get laid off, but it might be that we're laying you off because you didn't meet these goals, but if we can work toward these, then maybe there will be a place for you in our organization. And the worst part that can happen when you get laid off, or if you get let go or fired, or maybe you move on to another area, you will learn from that. Take what the managers, the supervisors are letting you know personally, okay, and you can work on that. There might be something that you just weren't a good fit for that organization, or maybe there was just something that with a little bit of more hard work, the next place will benefit even more. And a good supervisor is going to be able to deliver that to you in a positive manner, in a way that will help you feel like you have room to grow. Okay? Not a negative, not a failure, but you have room to grow. Okay? So don't lecture the employee. Okay? Don't concentrate only on the negative. And one thing supervisors can do too is don't do all the talking. If you have something specific you want to share with the employee, give them a moment to reflect on that. Here, let's go over your performance. Here are some things I'd like you to look at and work on. And then you let your employee know, take a step back, and give them some time to talk and listen. Some of the best things we can learn as a supervisor is listening to our employees. And we've already talked about that. Okay? Don't be overcritical. Okay? Feel it is necessary that both of you agree on all areas. So go over every area on the performance appraisal. And if there is an issue or there's a red flag, you can talk about that. The opportunity to talk about the appraisal is in that interview. Okay? And don't compare employees with others. This performance appraisal is about you, and it's about you only. So a good supervisor will not bring up the performance of somebody else. They will not bring up something that maybe you did in the past even. They'll bring up the here and now and what is relative to your performance at this given state of time. Okay? Now, one thing that the supervisors will have to do, it's probably the toughest role of the supervisor, is disciplinary action. There's got to be a better way to do things. We don't like to scold our employees at all, but a good supervisor is going to have a good disciplinary plan. It's going to be specific. It's going to give details on the things that the employee needs to work on. And hopefully it has a very positive flow, and it really just talks about the things that we can improve upon. Not all bad reviews or not negative reviews, not all of them can lead to somebody being fired or somebody being laid off, but they can be negative in the fact that you're not performing up to standards, but here's what we can do differently. Here's what we can do. Here's your disciplinary plan. Over the next 6 months, we'd like to see you improve your ability to come to work on time. We'd like to see you start projects quicker. Okay, we'd like to see more efficiency from you, and they can be delivered in a very positive manner. Okay, efficiency, what we measure, what do supervisors measure? They measure efficiency and attitude. And efficiency, pretty simple to manage. Are you coming to work on time? Are you not calling in sick? Okay? Do you have good working skills? We can measure that. We can watch you. We can measure the time it takes you to finish your tasks. We can measure the value of your tasks. And are you growing? Can we see that you're moving up in the company? You're taking on some more responsibility? These are things we can measure. The hard things to measure would be attitude. Okay, and I'm seeing more and more on applications everywhere that people are measuring attitude. Do you have a good attitude? Must have a good attitude. I'm seeing that on a lot of job descriptions. And how do we measure that? That's very difficult. Okay, another thing too is Is the employee willing to grow? Okay. Are you willing to grow as an employee? And how do we measure this? On your resume, you can let people know on your resume what you're looking forward to in a job. In this particular position, I'm looking for upward mobility. I'm looking for growth, and you can include that on your resume. Okay, and that tells me a little bit about you, that you have a pretty good attitude because you want to grow with the organization. Another thing is, do I have goals? Do I set goals? And how can you do that on your resume? Make sure that you have some goals on your resume. Your resume will include your employment, the jobs that you've had in the past. It's going to include your education that you've completed, but it also should include a couple of goals that you have for yourself. They can be personal or they can be professional goals. So if I've got professional goals right there on my resume, I've got the idea that I'm willing to grow, I'm willing to learn, okay? Also communicates well. Now, you can put something right on your resume that lets them know that you communicate well. And it could be a position that you've had in the past where you had to work with customers, okay? And so basically, it's really important that when you develop your resume or you develop your CV and you're working toward getting a different job or working for a new job, or supervisors are going to look at your resume, that you include areas on there that will tell me that I set goals, okay? I'm willing to learn. I'm in college, so I have a college education I'm working toward, and I'm willing to grow with an organization. I'm willing to learn and grow. And you can also make sure that you have on there that the jobs that you've had, make it real clear, the jobs where you've had to show that you communicate well with others, that it's right in there and it's pretty clear. So, thank you so much for learning a little bit about a performance appraisal. The most important thing to remember is that managers who are going to give you the performance appraisal, you need to make sure that they stay consistent. And if they're going to do it once a year, they stick to that once a year schedule. If they're going to do it every 6 months, they stick to that semi-annual schedule. Okay, it's very important for consistency, and we didn't really talk about feedback. Feedback during the performance evaluation interview should be clear, and it should be something that you can research and come back to the following year and review that as well. So you should continuing that feedback loop where you're getting good information from your supervisor and the supervisor is getting good feedback from you as well. It's got to be a two-way street. I'm presenting you with everything you need to know to improve your performance, and let's circle back and talk about this, and maybe even if we have to do a disciplinary plan, or maybe we do a growth plan. It doesn't have to be a negative part. It doesn't have to be, you're really doing all good in all these areas, but we really need you to work on this area. It doesn't always have to be negative. It can also be very positive. Here's the things that you've improved in, and here's where we want to improve even more. But you have to be specific and you have to be consistent. And the supervisors who are able to do that are going to cultivate and grow employees that are going to want to stay with them, that are going to want to grow with the organization, and are going to want to improve.